WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I have something from England. Interesting. From the Spirit of Yorkshire Distillery, Filey Bay, or Filey Bay. So this is the flagship. This is 46%, non-chilled filtered, no color added, and a no age statement. I paid 55 euros for this in Germany. Whiskybase number 168743. And this is basically the house style now of the distillery. And the interesting thing is they use their own homegrown barley from grain to glass. So I must admit the packaging is something I like. That little copper moment here is very, very nice. So you actually have the entire process here. It explains it. I like that we have the wind turbines in the background. It says barley is malted by steeping, fermenting, and kilning. 100% homegrown barley from our farm. I guess the farm is then David Thompson, because he, together with Tom Mellor, Mellor, actually started the distillery back in 2011. Their first thoughts were, hey, let's make a distillery. We have the connections here with Tom. He's doing the beer. He has a beer brewery, so we have that basic part of it. Why don't we just distill it? We have our own grains. We send it off. We make beer out of it. Why can't we just make also whiskey out of it? And so they contacted Dr. Jim Swan, and he actually had the first contact with them. One of my favorite things that they talked about was the fact they said, okay, Dr. Jim Swan asked them, what type of whiskey would you like to make? And they were like, well, we want to have a whiskey that men and women can drink. And they were like, well, that means it has to be a little bit sweeter and fruitier. Like, that sounds good. And so what they did is, and that's the second picture here. So the first picture you have here is that, which is nice. So you have here also, it says here, malted, mashed, and fermented with chalk filtered water from deep beneath the Yorkshire wolds, W-O-L-D. And then you have here, and this is the interesting part, the second part, you have two pot stills. I can tell you a little story about those as well. And then you have a column attached. Hey, what's that? I don't think that would be allowed to be called single malt Scotch in Scotland, but we're in England, and so in Germany you can do it as well. Single malt just means from one distillery, malt being 100% malted barley. Ta-da! But in Scotland, it has to be made on a pot still. So what they do is actually, where do I start? Okay, going back to the pot stills. Way back when, after they had talked to Dr. Jim Swan, they actually knew, hey, we need pot stills. So they went to Forsyths and said, hey, can we order 2 pot stills? And they're like, no problem. They named the date. I'm just going to say 2030. And they're like, oh. It was like everyone was ordering pot stills back then. And even the big boys were expanding and expanding. They just didn't have any capacity. So they went to Germany, my home country here, and said, hey, let's go have some pot stills. And the Germans went, no problem. We can do this. They have 2 different producers. I'm not sure which one it was. And so they were given a time frame, and the time frame passed and expired. They missed the first deadline, they missed the second deadline, and they were basically missing the third deadline when they received a call from Forsyths. Apparently, there was a little bit of the idea of maybe Scotland leaving, becoming independent, and there was supposed to be some type of referendum. And all the big companies, basically, all the breweries, Forsyths, it's not just distilleries, but breweries as well. They make these copper pots that was needed also there. Basically, everyone put all their projects on hold. Because we don't understand what would happen if we became independent. And so Forsyths just kind of went, well, remember us? We have nothing to do. Would you like to come over? We can do your project now. And they came over with like a day or two. They were there. They signed the papers. They did it. And within a year, they had their pot stills, and they also had it installed, which is fitted into their assembly there, which is amazing. Very, very fast turnaround there. And so that's why they actually have this little column here. This is a 4-plate column, and it makes it much smoother and sweeter. Don't like using the word smooth. When it comes off, half the year they use the column still, half the year they don't. So if they're only using the 2 pot stills, you put 5,000 liters worth of 8% wash into the first pot still. The wash still, you come out with about 1,400 liters, if I remember correctly. and 1,700 at about 25%. And then you put it in the second pot still, and you basically get a 75% ABV. But if you run it first, not after, first, it's not a doubler like we do in America. We run it first through the 4-plate of the column. They will actually get about the high 80s, about 88% coming off of that pot still afterwards, which I think is very, very interesting. It makes it clean, it makes it crisp, it makes it a little bit just silky and smoother. All right, very, very good. Now, what I do not know, and that's what really bugs me, is nowhere does it say here if at all there is column still material in here, and if how much. All I know, and it's not even on here to be honest, I had to go online for this, is it here or not, is that this was used making first fill bourbon barrels. So, our flagship single malt whiskey is the essence of our distillery, created from field to bottle using 100% homegrown barley. So we created our own way. We use homegrown barley, water sourced from the farm to create Filey single malt whiskey. So online you can read about it, that it says here 100%. First here it says, where doesn't it? Oh, here it says, sorry, I found it someplace. So light, fruity, and full of flavor, our flagship single malt whiskey is the essence of our distillery, created from field to bottle using 100% homegrown barley and matured in first fill bourbon casks. Whew, found it. So that's what this is. I thought I had poured some. I'm sorry. I was talking the whole time to make sure I had enough time for that to actually have the appropriate time in the glass. My mistake. All right, so the bottle I like as well. I have 3 more coming up from this company, so I'll talk about that afterwards. What am I going to compare it to? I'm going to compare it to a Glencadam 10 years old. Why? I needed something that was 100% bourbon cask matured. Ta-da! I needed something that was 46%. Ta-da! I needed something that was non-chilled filtered and no color added. Ta-da! And the good thing is this is an age statement. Yay, and this is 38 euros over where I am in Germany. This is 55 euros. Ooh. So first of all, you do notice a difference in the colors. This is not first fill bourbon exclusively. This is. So you do see the color difference here, definitely. Doot. Oh. All right, so I'm going to pour a little bit of this. I actually have 8 bottles of this at the moment for one specific reason. I'm doing an experiment. And the experiment is the following. I have 7 different types of whiskey. 7 different types of sherry. I have Fino, and I have Amontillado, I have Manzanilla, I have Palo Cortado, I have Oloroso, I have Pedro Jimenez, and I have Moscatel. Yeah, 7. And I'm going to actually take 5 cl of each of these sherries and put them into a bottle of Glencadam, so each. And then I'm going to send out samples of the whiskey plus sherry mix and only of the sherry itself. And then we're going to try all 7 of these. The 8th bottle is the baseline, so it's a bottle without anything in there, and we can actually see what sherry does to that whiskey. I'm very, very excited about it. Today the sherry should have arrived. It's going to arrive tomorrow on Friday. Tomorrow's a public holiday over here. And so then I'm going to mix it, let it set for like 1 or 2 weeks, and then send out the packages. And we're going to have 23 people doing this together with me, and we're going to have an online experiment about 2.5 hours to see which sherries we like and which sherries we like in our whiskeys, and which that will actually help us to know when we buy whiskeys in the future, where will we go, ooh, I love this sherry influence my whiskey, and I don't like that. Yes, the whole project has one little drawback: no wood influence. Sorry, I couldn't reproduce that, nor do I want to. But I thought it was a very interesting experiment. All right, so on the nose, this is fabulous. I get a fruity, I get a vanilla, I get a very, very nice malty sweetness here. I get a tiny little bit of a spice from maybe a little bit like a clove in there, all that from the bourbon. Very, very nice. It says here light, fruity, and full of flavor. So on the nope. What they say here in the back is matured in specially selected premium oak casks from around the world, blah, blah, blah. Distilled by, bottled by hand at our distillery in Humnasby. That is in England in the north, and actually the bay is there. You can, from the distillery out the windows, you can almost see the beach, and that's what that was named. All right, the homegrown barley, the house style of this distillery. Not bad, not bad on the nose. I'm going to give it a B minus. I like the nose. Cheers. Mm-hmm. Mm. Oh. Uh-oh. Mm. Well, I have a big problem here. Somewhat metallic, fairly young. It started off at a very, very nice, sweet moment. And then it was like, oh, wait a second. There's something not exactly right here. And then it was like, oh, there's something wrong here. There's a bitterness and there's a metallic youthfulness here. Now, I do think that there's a lot of potential here at this distillery for the future. But I do think that they filled a product at this moment that was fairly young, and I'm going to say even too young. So that's that at the moment. I'm going to add a little bit of water, take it down to like 40%, see what happens. I like the flair of the distillery. If you go to YouTube, you type in the Spirit of Yorkshire Distillery, you'll see the YouTube channel. And you'll see basically, I think there were 13 videos that the daughter of David Thompson, she's the marketing manager there, maybe she's responsible for the nice packaging as well, did with every single process, from the grain to the mashing to the distilling to the fermentation, mashing, distilling, bottling, barrel aging, maturation, every single step. There were like more than one different video that she did, a live stream. It was on Facebook and on YouTube. Beautiful, brilliant, brilliant stuff. Excellent. I learned a lot from that. All right, give it enough time in the glass. Mm-hmm. Mm. Young. No, I have to give this a C minus. I'm sorry. It started out at a C plus, maybe even C plus plus on the nose. B minus, as I said, I love the nose. Still do. But it's just not up to par according to my personal opinion. Now, some of you would say, oh, but Jason, it might be you. Also, that's one reason I like to have a comparison whiskey, the Glencadam. Now, in the nose, this is very subtle. This is light vanilla. This is light citrus. This is very, very light, spicy oak. If you go to blending, you go back to the history of blending, you have A and B and C quality blends. Glencadam is always an A. It's like an empty canvas that you can just paint and do anything you want to with it because it's just so well made and so nicely done. It's very, very, very good. And maybe that's one of the reasons why Roy from Aquavit always praises this bottle. I must admit, for the value for money, 38 euros compared over here to 55 euros, this is definitely a bargain. Question of the day, what other whiskey could you recommend instead of the Glencadam that has the same pure, crisp, clean qualities as the Glencadam 8 for a Glencadam 10 for the price that it's at, a great bourbon matured whiskey? Or my other question is, and I'm going to get a lot of answers, I'm sure, what other whiskeys from England have you heard about? Have you tried? I know Bimber and I know Coswolds and now I know Filey. But what other ones have you heard of? Have you tried? I am now a member of Exploring English Whiskey Club or whatever it is, and I'm looking forward to learning more about the dozens of different distilleries in England. Mm. Mm. It actually goes up a little bit. Very, very nice stuff. Wow. It says on the back, and I do not like marketing blah blah, but this is actually nice. Rounded elegance, clean, crisp citrus notes, a pleasing harmony between a natural sweetness and the soft, spicy oak. Yep. All right. So, C minus, value for money, a D. I'm sorry, I'm not willing to pay 55 euros for something I don't like, especially not at all at a no age statement at the moment. They started May 2016, so this is about, if it was bottled 2020, which it was, yeah, 4-year-old whiskey. Max. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for subscribing. Thank you very much for commenting. What is your favorite alternative to Glencadam 10 at a similar price? And what other English whiskey distilleries can you tell me about and recommend? Almost every day videos are coming out at the moment. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for also sharing and telling others about this crazy guy over here in Germany, sharing and talking about whiskeys you might not ever see. So sorry. Bye-bye.